The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, you're encouraged to like and share them on Facebook because it's time for the African American Scene, brought to you by Howard Insurance of Port St. Lucie and hosted by Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. And I have a special treat for you tonight. I have a guest. And my guest is Phillip Thomas. And he wrote this book, Master. And Cliff's showing you the book now. I would encourage you to get yourself a copy. It's very interesting. Phillip is a very deep brother, and we're going to have some interesting dialogue. Phillip, say hello.
Hello, how you doing? I'm really happy to be here today, and it's a pleasure to be with Mr. Rudy. And I'm enjoying this conversation because he's an exciting fella, and I think he's got a lot of questions for me.
Yeah, I do. Well, and let me tell you what's special about this gentleman. When Michael Baisden was here, I think it was on a night where I had a meeting. So my sister went, and she tells me, she comes back and she says, "Brother, I met this guy, Phillip Thomas, out of Vero, and I got a copy of his book," which that's what you were seeing as her copy that she got. "And I think you ought to try to get him on your radio show." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So that's what happened. I called Phillip, and I got him here on the show. Now, let me tell you what else makes my guest special. He was one of the people that was part of President Obama's clemency pardoning program. So he was pardoned by President Obama for a nonviolent felony, and he had spent how many years?
I spent 12 years exactly. And excuse me, I want to correct you, Rudy. I wasn't pardoned. I received a clemency, which was a commutation of the sentence. I had actually 292 months, and I was commuted. My sentence was commuted to 12 years and 2 months.
Okay. Well, thank you for correcting me. Let's get it right. So, and you were originally sentenced for how many years?
Well, 292 months is actually 24 years and about 8 months.
Okay. So, and you did 12 years and 2 months.
2 months. So actually half my time.
Boy, I can only imagine how difficult of adjustment was it once they clipped your wings?
Once they put the handcuffs on me, the only thing really came to my mind, to be honest, Rudy, was my kids. And I don't think I could have made it out of there without, having my kids on my mind every day. I had to get back to my kids, man.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I had to get back to my kids.
That's something that I put a high priority on. So tell me, how would you describe yourself?
I'm very loyal, very devoted to people who really have a passion for living and for art, Yeah. I try to be a good person. I never wanted to hurt anyone, and I was into drugs. I sold drugs, and my intent was never to hurt anyone. I always had an end game, but I just never carried it out. And so I'm not a criminal. I never was a criminal in no sense of the word. And it's probably I didn't have to do anything to really come here. I didn't have to sell no drugs. but I really do think I needed to go to prison. And I say that because it was something that I conceived back in '92, and it was burning me. It was burning me up. I had to figure it out, and I don't think I would have figured it out unless I came to prison. I went to prison, so, and I was able to do it in 2004. I was able to figure it out.
Wow. It's very interesting that you see that as partially a good thing for how it had an effect on your life. I think that's very interesting. You have self-published this book, as I understand.
I self-published it. I edited. I did everything. I did everything in this book. I did have help. I don't think I didn't have any help because Rome wasn't built in a day and definitely wasn't built alone. But I had my hands in just about in everything. Everything done in that book, I had my hands in it.
Yeah. So, where did the idea, and audience, if you want to call in and speak to my guests, that number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. Just call in. Excuse me, but I am fighting a cold that my little granddaughter gave me. So from time to time I may be doing some coughing, but I'm here for you guys. And I'm here with Phillip. So, okay, so Phillip, where did the concept of the book come from?
The concept actually came from a symbol. I conceived the symbol in 1992. I had just came back from a little town called Malone, Florida. It's northern Florida. It's up near Mariana. And it's close to Alabama, to the Alabama-Florida line. And I saw some friends up there, and I was coming back, and I was on I-10, and all of a sudden, I'm halfway back to Tallahassee, and a feeling came over me, just like it was like a air, just like a hurricane, not that powerful, but just the wind just blew and just blew me away, and the symbol. All I can see left after the wind just passed was a symbol, and I just saw the symbol was clear, and it's when you meet your master, black or white, black you white, and I just kept running in my mind, black you white, black you white, and then it dawned on me the meaning of it, and I just couldn't. I just started driving at like 70 miles per hour as fast as I possibly could. The speed limit back then was 55, I think. I think I was doing about 70, 75. Trying to make it back to Tallahassee so I can write it down. As soon as I got to the house, man, I ran in the house. My daughter's mother had one daughter then. And she looked at me like I was crazy because I was like a possessed man. But I walked in and wrote it down, and I couldn't wait to call this lawyer friend of mine because I had been thinking all kinds of thoughts on the way, how I could make some money and all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to stop selling drugs. I got an idea, So, I wrote it down, and I called a lawyer friend, and he wasn't too excited about it. I was still enthusiastic about it. And so he finally said, man, you need more than just a symbol, And I'm like, man, I'm telling you, this symbol is we can sell it on T-shirts, we can sell it here, sell it there. And finally got him around to kind of being halfway lukewarm about it. And then he said, well, you probably need something else. I said, well, look, I can write a book, because in my mind now started churning, that I can write a book, and based on the symbol itself. So that was a culmination of an idea, and so I formed a publishing company back in 1993 based on that symbol, and the book that I was gonna write. So I took off and I wrote the book. I finished the book up in Mississippi, came back, and it was garbage, to be honest with you, Ruby. I mean, it was a good book now. It's a good book. I still have a copyright to it. I still have it. I ended up getting busted because the company folded, and I ended up getting busted trying to do it myself. And I got out, and I was still mine still on the book. I think I did about 7 years, 6.5 years. I got out, still wanted to do the book, and first I had my son's mother. Now I was with her, and we was doing pretty good, but she ended up getting pregnant, and I wasn't even thinking about marrying and that kind of stuff. And I had 2 kids of my own, and she had a son, and it was getting tough. And I knew some people, so I got back into the game, started making a lot of money, and I was almost at my end game, as you can call it. You know, it was almost there. I had enough money to really start my end game process, and I ended up getting arrested. And I got arrested in 2004, and I realized that the symbol that I had conceived in 1992 was coded. Coded to the universe, my kids' birthdays, crazy mad. So that's what happened, Rudy.
Wow, wow, wow. So you had actually been working on the book prior to getting busted.
Yeah. I was working on the book on that idea, of the concept of the symbol, and but the thought was it was in its infancy, and I didn't realize that thought was just traveling through time and space because I kept the thought alive, and that's what we have to do to our dreams. We can't never let our dreams go. We have to keep traveling those dreams, keep carrying those dreams through time and space. They will mature. Nothing is going to happen in a day. And we have to understand that it's always going to be a trial and tribulations, or anything that we conceive that has any type of dream-like quality to it. A dream is something that's almost unreal. So when you dream, you always dreaming big. And when you dream big, you want things to happen very big. Well, they're not going to happen fast. We have to watch them go through time and space, and we control them by our character. We have to control our character, and what I didn't realize is that I had bad character. Selling drugs, it wasn't the right character. I was breaking the law. When you're in Rome, you got to do what the Romans do. And I broke the cardinal rule. I didn't respect the law. Even though I realized that the law criminalized us and did a lot of things they shouldn't do, but I should have respected the law. Even Martin Luther King, he broke the law many times, but he respected the law. He went to jail. He abided by everything they told him. And that's what I should have done. I was mad. I was furious. I had to learn that. We have to respect the law. But I'm still not okay with the criminalization of drugs. I will never be okay with that. But anyway, with that said, I moved on, and I gained a lot of character while I was locked up, and I was able to figure it out.
You and I had a discussion before we came on air here, and I'd like to allow my audience to listen to part of what you and I were talking about as far as character is concerned, and how you feel that our character as black people has been broken.
Well, like he said, we had a wonderful conversation, and I'm always in awe of anyone who passes on some type of intellect. And Mr. Rudy here, he's older than I am, number one, so I'm always going to respect that. I'm always going to listen to anything he has to say. And I'm always listening. I listen to babies. I listen to winos, because everybody got something to give, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Even
sir.
though we don't think, they have anything of quality to give, I'm always looking for substance. You have to look for substance, even though it may not be there. But we always give somebody an ear and listen. But Mr. Rudy, of course, he has substance, and he's very valuable to the community, very valuable to me, because I'm always trying to bounce thoughts off people. But what we was talking about in general was that integration and our character, and how our character affected us. Our character before integration was impeccable. It wasn't, during slavery, our morality and our Christianity, it was beaten to us. Christianity, I mean, for whatever is worth, you know, I understand it in different ways and others, but you know, all religions are good. I have no qualms about religion because they serve a true purpose in trying to establish goodness in mankind and humankind. So goodness is a quality that we have to have. That's we have to have these qualities to increase our value. Character is a value. You know, Martin Luther King said, "Judge me by the content. Content is a value." So our character has value, and we put this value into the formula. It changes our pattern. So we had enough character as a whole, as a people, to change our enslavement. You know, and not only did we change our enslavement, we got into a point where we were segregated, and we were able to make some extraordinary progress doing segregation. You know, as a people, you're talking about Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. We talking about
Tulsa. Yep.
Yeah, we talking about the Harlem Renaissance. You know, we talking about some great achievements, and we had more black businesses doing segregation than we ever had. You know, we had stores, we had, and all this doing integration. They were dismantled. You know, because we didn't really understand credit back then, and so we got plummeted by not understanding funding, you know, because even very few of us understood credit, but then none of us understand funding. Marcus Garvey was the giant in funding, you know, and that was during our time of segregation. But when we went through the integration, the mechanism of funding was controlled by, you know, by the aggressive and dominant society.
Interesting. You know, I think character is very, very important to the development of oneself.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. It's very important, and people oftentimes view your character as a statement of who you are. As we're going through this current situation with the nomination of this guy to the Supreme Court, and there are issues relative to his character that are being discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And they should be if he's going to be a member of the Supreme Court. It shouldn't be looked at as a witch hunt. If this man is going to have a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, his character is part of the fundamentals that should be considered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in any event,
well, I mean, Rudy, to be honest with you, you know, we all have flaws. All have shortcomings. But my problem with Kavanaugh is that something happened. Maybe something happened. And the fact that he's not acknowledging the fact that something happened, that is more alarming to me than the fact that you know, because, you know, if you did it, you say you did it, it's way in the past. Apologize and can move on. But when a person fails to apologize, that is a degradation of character that's more harming and more harmful than the fact that you did it.
let me tell you something. I feel exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
If he came out and said, yes, I was 17.
Yeah, exactly.
I did some stupid stuff when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would be okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Because who didn't do stupid stuff
Exactly.
when they were 17?
Exactly.
But his hanging on to it and refusing to accept or admit it is a problem. I'm with you on that. That's a problem for me.
Yeah, that's the fear, because now he's lost all character.
Yeah.
And he has none. And he will be very destructive for the nation and for the country.
Yep, I totally agree. We have a caller, and we have Jeff in Port St. Lucie on line 1. Yes, sir.
But Rudy,
Yes,
and your
sir.
guest, if the man didn't know these people or didn't do anything to them, why should he have to answer to anything for it?
Jeff, well, let me ask you a question, Jeff. Do you believe these women are coming forth with these stories that have no merit and no substance?
The women that went and contacted the DNC first before they went and contacted any legal authority, yes, I think they have a problem.
Jeff,
I think they're. I
Where
think,
did
I
you-
think there's
where
a
did you-
political situation here. Everything left. Dianne Feinstein holding this. Rudy, the people of the United States aren't dumb. When that lady, Dianne Feinstein, held them papers up for 2 months without turning them over immediately to the FBI and saying, we need to check this out, that was the first step of politicizing this whole thing.
okay.
And now it's all politicized, and it's going to politicize and hurt everybody. It's going to hurt Brett Kavanaugh and his family. It's going to hurt the poor people that step forward. And if they do have a bone to pick, God Almighty, yes, Rudy, they need to be at the front of the line. They need to be talking to the police and getting it organized and getting it straight and getting it done.
Jeff,
That's what normal people would have done.
Jeff, first off, I have not yet seen anything that said these women went to the DNC before they talked about.
Well,
this.
actually, the DNC contacted them. They started hunting for them. I think actually the one lady from the
No,
the-
come on, no.
thing.
Let's get it. Let's get the story straight. Now, let me tell you, it's one of the things I get mad with you guys about when you don't get the story straight, because what happened with the first lady, the professor in California, the New York Times heard the story and hunted her down.
Is that the one that sent the letter to Dianne Feinstein?
Yes, they found
Sent the letter to her. Why didn't she go to the cops and say this guy did this?
Okay,
to me?
wait. They found her, told her what they found, which is what newspaper reporters do, and give you a chance to refute it. Once she was in a position where they were going to talk about this incident that they had discovered, that's when she began to talk about it. Well, you know what? Let me just say this. There's no halo on my head, Jeff. I'll tell you that.
No,
for
not
sure.
on mine either, Rudy. I'm
Okay.
standing right beside you on that one.
But getting women drunk or drugging them to taking them to bed, that's out of bounds for me.
Now, who did that?
I'm just saying that's just out of bounds. That's out of
But,
bounds.
but that's what they're being accused of.
well,
So if a lady
okay.
popped up her head tomorrow and said, Rudy, back when you were in high school, yeah, you did take advantage of me, and yeah, you did this, and yeah, you did that, and you're looking at her scratching your head going, 35 years ago I did? I don't remember that.
Well, let me see. Let me just
I
tell you.
mean, are you guilty, Rudy?
Phillip
I mean-
and I were just talking about that just before you called, and here's the difference between what he said and what he could have said. He could have said, you know what, I was 17. I did some dumb stuff when I was 17, and I may have done that, and but I have since lived an awfully good life, and if I did any of that, I'm sorry for it. And you know what? I will bet you the vast majority of the people in this country would have accepted that and moved on. But no, he's going to stand and fight, and he's going to deny that he did anything. And that as Phillip just said, that's the character issue there. But Jeff, here's the thing.
All right, so what this man has done for his whole life and helping people,
You have
and
to understand.
being a judge and doing all that he's done, that doesn't contribute anything to the man's character. I mean, when you're picking on the man, I watched this the other night. I thought I had to laugh at myself. After the softball games, we stopped by this place and I have a pizza and a beer. And next thing you know, everybody's jumping up and saying, well, why didn't you take all the girls on the softball team to the Pizza Hut? You know, there's going to be people that second guess everything you do, Rudy. No matter what you do, you know, They second guessed Jesus Christ, and look what they did to him. It's a thing about politics, man. I tell you what, they ought to abolish politics in this world. You know, it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's and why do we have a man sitting there asking questions to this guy that's got a warrant? I mean, not a warrant, but he's been already. How am I going to say this? The second in command that beat up his girlfriend and has got all these things pending on him. How is he sitting on that chair? I mean, why has nobody said anything about Mr. Allison?
Has he been adjudicated yet?
He hasn't even. What has he done?
Well, I'm just
he's
asking.
Already been accused. He's been accused of it.
I know you're saying he's been accused. So.
And they got police. I guess they got police work on that. They do have police work on that one.
But has he been adjudicated?
But
if the case has
I'm not sure where that all stands right now.
Okay, well then,
what I'm just trying to say is how can that man sit there? He's been accused of it. I mean, nobody's ever proved anything. Nobody's gone legally after Brett Kavanaugh. They're just saying this stuff right now. Well, why wouldn't you go to the authorities and say this? Rudy, there's mean people on both sides of this line. There's mean men, there's nasty men, there's mean women, and there's nasty women, just like men. I mean, just like there's bad folk on every side of the coin that you can possibly take. Now, we can only hope for the good people to stand up, like you, Rudy. As much as I fight and argue with you, I respect you, Rudy. And I respect what you do.
Well, thank you.
And I would never do anything to hurt you or to hurt your family. You may be yelling and screaming at your top of your lungs at me because you don't think I'm thinking right way. And I understand that. But that's us being the people that we are. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
You know, have a good night. I wasn't trying to stir you up there, but I'm just trying to say.
Thank you, Jeff.
You know,
I appreciate
I just get sort of worried about, everybody jumping and believing somebody says. I mean, they could do that to anybody. Every senator in that whole House, every congressman, everybody's going to have to really be very concerned now if they accept the policy of when somebody accuses you of something, you're guilty. Yeah. And I can't believe how many people I've heard stand on that TV and call him guilty, and he hasn't even had his day in court yet, hasn't had anything going on.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. Got another call.
You have a great...
Okay, you too. And we got Guy on line 2. Yes, sir.
Hey, Rudy, how you doing?
Okay.
I just, getting back to this Keith Ellison thing, if he would just go on the air and admit that he did that to the girl, then I could forgive him and he could just go ahead and serve in the House. Does that make sense to you?
Well,
all he has to do is admit to something that he might not have done, and then that'd be okay with you.
No.
That's what you said about Kavanaugh.
I'm saying that
he needs to admit to something that he doesn't believe he did. Hell, he's the one that knows he didn't do it.
Okay. Well,
but in Ellison's situation, it's different.
Okay, what's different?
And the reason it's different is because he's black.
Oh.
Last week you talked about we have got to get along. We've got to bury the hatchet. We have to find some common ground. And short of a world war, that's not going to happen because we draw the lines straight down race. You do it, I do it, at least I admit it.
Well, I would tell you that I can't say that I am perfect. I try not to do that. I try to be open-minded about all positions. Now, in my opinion, what I said to you earlier about Kavanaugh was, if he did it.
No, there was no qualifier. You said,
I know,
and your guest there in the studio said, if he would just admit that he did it, then I said I would be able to go on and probably forgive the guy.
Here's what we said.
So what you want him to do is take the bait and just say, I was a dumb 17-year-old kid, so I can't be held responsible for what I did, and maybe I did do it. boom. You
What-
guys
what
would
we
lower
said- what we
the block
said-
on him, and that'd be the end of his career.
So what we said is if he had admitted to it as a youthful person doing something stupid, if he had admitted, that's what we said. So that was not saying that he did it, but if he had admitted to doing it, then that to me would have been something that a lot of people would have been okay with.
But
Now,
since
so
he
as far
didn't
as
do it,
but if he
you
did,
feel like he's doing the wrong thing, or he's doing the right thing by standing by his gun.
No, if he didn't do it, then he should stand by his position that he didn't do it.
Okay, that's exactly what he's doing. Now, getting back to the Keith Ellison thing, does that work with Ellison's situation?
Sure.
So he's guilty of abusing his girlfriend?
I don't know. Does the
Well, no, you know enough to think that we should go on and look beyond the Kavanaugh nomination because he has proven to be less than quality material.
No, you're not listening to me. Okay, you're trying to get me to say something that I'm not going to say.
You've already said it.
No, what I'm going to tell you
Well,
is
all you're doing is covering your tracks.
no, I'm not. What I'm telling you is that
Rudy,
if Ellison is guilty, then by God, then he's guilty.
Yeah,
That's just the
but
way
you
it
didn't need a civics lesson from him because the Supreme Court.
One politician, one is a judge.
Yeah. So no,
That's exactly what you said.
no. What I'm
And
saying.
you know, a fourth grade civics guy knows that they interpret the laws that are written by the legislature.
Okay, listen. What I'm saying to you is, has the case been adjudicated? The answer is no. And Philip, did you want to make a comment here?
Yes, sir. How you doing, caller?
Good. How are you, Philip?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, sir.
Good.
I see you trying to make a comparison between Ellison's situation and Kavanaugh's situation, and I think what you're missing is the two separate situations. Because Ellison, I think he's a representative, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we're talking about a politician here. We know our government has, politicians, and we know pretty much our politicians are liars. But we can't afford to have a liar on the Supreme Court. You know, the Supreme Court, they claim we are infallible not because we are infallible, but we are infallible because we are final. This is the final say in the land. Do we really want someone who's not honest to be on the final call of all
Again,
the
you're making the
decisions?
assumption he's not honest because of what these accusers have said prior to him getting to
No,
state.
I'm not trying to make no assumption here. What I'm saying is that because this position here is the highest position in the land as far as character and morality is concerned, we can't afford to make no mistakes.
But it's okay
Ellison-
for our legislators to.
We already know.
be-
We already know what they are. We already know the main of a politician is a little bit corrupt. We don't
Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, the senator from Connecticut, has been making more noise about this situation than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that he lied about being in Vietnam during the Vietnam War.
Of course,
Stolen honor.
a
And we
politician-
elected him anyway.
We know politicians lie. They lie to get in office. They lie about all the things they promise people they're going to do, and when they get in, they don't do it. This is understandable. But the Supreme Court justice, this is the highest honor you can possibly get when it comes to morality. You know what I'm saying? We don't expect our politicians to be moral, upright, standing citizens, but the Supreme Court justice, this is the highest we go.
And these three women, supposedly three women, that have come forward at the last minute after Brett Kavanaugh has gone through 6 FBI fact-finding missions.
Mm-hmm.
I won't call them investigations because that's not what they do, but they have amassed a mountain of information about him, and they've never been able to find anything bad until he was about to be voted on for the Supreme Court.
Well,
Now, just given an overview of that whole situation,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that's a reasonable thing to think that, oh, gosh, I was so hurt by this that I had to wait until the last minute, and then I was able to recall all this with the help of my shrink?
That's very.
Bearing in mind that she is a psychologist and that she lives in academia.
That's very insensitive. That's that's very insensitive, because you don't know what it's like for a woman to have experienced that and to live with that.
Dear God, Rudy, you're Kool-Aid.
No, no.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. The pendulum has swung so far that all she has to do is say, wait, I was hurt 36 years ago, and I have to have my say. And that is, you can never get a fair trial in that situation. She had a shot at it. When it happened, if that was my wife, sister, mother, I would go ballistic. But 36 years, I'm sorry. She could have reported it at the time. That's
Excuse
pretty
me,
much her
excuse me, sir.
responsibility to society.
He also had an opportunity to apologize.
He didn't do anything.
But I'm saying,
Do you not understand that?
If he had apologized to her earlier, she probably wouldn't even be at this. We wouldn't be talking about it today.
Why doesn't Keith Ellison apologize for hitting his girlfriend?
He should. He should.
Hey, Rudy, have a good evening, man. You guys.
Okay. And we got Chuck on line 1. Yes, Chuck.
Hey, Rudy, how you doing?
Okay.
Hey, get over that cold. Little Vicks Vapor Rub on the bottom of your feet. Cure it right up.
Oh, man.
I'd like to speak with Phillip.
Okay.
How you doing, sir? How you doing?
Hey, just call me Chuck. Sir was my dad, okay?
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, you had your sentence commuted.
Yes, sir.
My question is, there's a very important amendment coming up for
Amendment 4,
both
sir.
this. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you gotten your voting rights back?
No, sir, I do not.
And
It's
I'll be voting for it. And is there a reason they're not letting you?
Yes, because the law in Florida is that we cannot vote. We have to get our votes restored. And right now you have to go through the parole commission.
Okay.
And that pretty much always kind of been like pay for play, but I never experienced it. I never tried getting it, but it's very difficult.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I want you to know I'll be voting for that amendment to pass so you can get your rights back to vote because
now you do realize that it takes 60% to get that amendment ratified.
Well, I'm telling everybody to vote for it. I've got it on my Facebook. There's a amendment for people trying to get the word out to everybody. So
thank you very much.
Everybody, I'm telling them, yeah, well, you've done your time, so you deserve to have your rights back.
Thank you very much, Chuck. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Rudy.
Yes, sir.
You got this Kavanaugh thing all wrong. Why does he have to apologize for something he didn't do? I understand if he did it, he should apologize.
I didn't
but
say
if
that.
nothing happened, why should he?
He shouldn't.
Well, no. But you know what? The point it's getting put across is because he's denying it, that he's guilty, that he's hiding something. Do you realize the perception that's being built out there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
so I think everybody.
Let me put it to you like this.
Mm-hmm.
When I was the manager of, I had 90 people when I was in New York City. I had 3 assistant managers and 17 supervisors that I was responsible for.
Right.
And as a general rule of thumb, when one complaint came to me about something one of my assistant managers or supervisors did, I gave very little weight to that because I considered that a potential aberration. When I got the second or the third complaint about the same person with a similar situation, that requires an investigation because now we have something that appears to be a pattern that should be investigated. And that's the only thing I'm going to say about Kavanaugh because he has a right to be not guilty if he didn't do anything. But if you've got 3 women who all are telling similar stories about him being in a state of drunkenness when he did whatever he did, there seems to be a pattern.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I understand that, but the question as I have is, Remember Judge Roy Moore, Alabama, Republican, running for senator in a special election?
Yes.
They trotted out all kinds of women, one of them claiming to be 16 years old. Yeah, he got defeated because of that, got was support withdrawn from him from the Republican Party and all that. My question is, where are those women today, and what is the status of any legal action against him? Because it appears, and I've been Googling and binging, and now I go DuckDuckGo because they can't track you on that. There's nothing. They disappeared after he got defeated. Are we trying? This seems to be a very similar thing that's occurring, and it would seem to me that if these accusations, like with Moore, there should be something going on afterward. But I fear that this is the same thing that's being done, and I don't think it's fair to any person, male or female.
Okay. All righty. So.
Okay, I'll let you go, Rudy.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. Phil, we're going to take one more call, and we got John on line 3. Yes, John.
Hi, Rudy. It's your friend John. How are you?
Good.
Good. I wanted to make a comment about Kavanaugh. I think what bothered me, and I'm not getting away from this particular subject, this particular topic of Kavanaugh, but I saw a film clip where he refused to shake the hand of a father whose daughter was killed in a school shooting. Did you ever see that?
Yes.
He just turned away from him with a snarl on it, just a nasty look on his face, like almost like the guy stunk.
Yeah.
It was pitiful. And then he was questioned later on in another interview about whether he discussed Russia with this group that he was with. And he evaded that. It was just unbelievable, almost childish. It was so open. Well, what were their names? Which one are you talking about? Did you see that?
Yep.
That was ridiculous. I mean, look, sometimes you can judge people by the company they keep, and you always have to consider who wants them to be on the Supreme Court. They're birds of a feather. Look, what he did when he was young is, inexcusable. But I think as important as that is the character of the man, and how evasive and less than honest, and he doesn't have any compassion. You got to fear people like that on the decisions they'd make, in a serious situation. And I wanted to say one thing. It's on kind of a lighter note, but the program you have is difficult because first of all, you're on a conservative station.
Yes.
And you get a lot of opposing views. You know that the people that support him, no matter what he does, what he says, they excuse it and they find, they don't find fault with him. The other day, you had a couple of people on the air, and they were talking about the half-cent raise for the sales tax.
Right.
And they wanted opinions. So I called up. They were nice guys. They were very open-minded and easygoing. And I said, I was against it because it's not the half penny. It's the total amounts. Every extra penny, every extra dollar comes out of your pocket, and of course, my income doesn't change. It's only 10 a month. It's only 15 a week. Well, that's fine if you can afford it. But my comment was that this is a conservative station, and the fellow said, "Oh no, it isn't. What about Rudy Howard?" And I said, "You got to be kidding!" I said, "You got Tom Sullivan, what's his name, Jim Bohannon, Larry Elder, Rush, and this Joe Martek, who I don't know what he's selling, but his whole program on Tuesday is about how wonderful Trump is and how bad the Democrats are." One day I called him and I said, You're in a business, I said, and you are bad-mouthing Democrats. I said, is this a political station or are you trying to promote your business? And he said, Well, I got friends that are Democrats. Why don't you and I have a beer? And I said, well, I don't drink Republican champagne. And I mean, it's pitiful. It really is. I'm old. I don't have a lot of time left. I don't think I'm probably going to be 90 and get shot by a jealous husband. At least I'm hoping. That's how it's going to end. But every day it's an annoyance, and it weighs heavy on you.
John, you left something out of that mix when you mentioned like Tom Sullivan and Rush Limbaugh and all that.
Yeah, they're all
Unlike Rudy Howard, they're
Yeah.
inaccessible to me and you, the general public.
Why? You can call Larry all
You
day.
can walk right into Rudy's office and say, "Hi, Rudy, how are you?"
What does
Try
that
to
mean?
try to walk into Rush Limbaugh's office and say, "How are you?"
Well, I understand that.
Yeah,
but I'm
that
saying
doesn't.
that,
They don't own this station. They're just. They're some of the very successful talk show
I know,
hosts
but
help
that's
us.
all. Any talk program other than Rudy is conservative. It's far right. That's the only point I'm going to make.
We got to have balance.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
I got to get back here to Phillip, but give him an opportunity here.
All right.
Okay.
Hope I didn't bore you.
No, not at all.
No.
All right. Take care. Be healthy.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
know.
Phillip,
Yes, sir.
what do you want people to get out of reading your book? What is the message?
The message of you, Master, and I say you, Master, because the message is you, Master. I say this because you, Master, is basic, the whole totality of the sum itself. We are our own master. You are your master. And we are one. That we are all one. In the black, we're white. We all interconnected with the universe, and we have to start thinking about the preservation of humanity and not about, the polarized universe that we perceive as our reality. So we, as human beings, we should be able to transcend beyond our reality and live in a world that will be more cohesive and more unified, and it would extend our life as human beings, because if we continue in this reality that we live in, I think we'll be extinct, and that's what it's all about, Rudy.
I happen to agree with that. What do you think some of the keys are for us to get to that space?
We have to take control of ourselves and be true to ourselves, and we have to understand that it all starts with us. No one person can change nothing. All we can do is create problems with the universe. We try to do things, we have to change ourselves. By changing ourselves, then we change the patterns. But to try to change people, we cannot change others. We have to change ourselves. By changing ourselves, we affect others.
Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting thought. That we have to first start inward.
Yes.
And be different individuals.
We create,
in order to help facilitate a change in the dynamics that exist between us now.
Right. It's all thought and energy. It's all thought and energy traveling through time and space. And once we understand who we are, we become thought and energy.
Okay. That's pretty deep. Thought and energy traveling through space. So it's a theory out there that we need to exercise to create a better energy as people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that can be done.
Yes, it can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. You know what? We got a bunch of phone calls in here to kind of got us off track. I'm going to have you come back in a couple of weeks.
I'll be happy to come back. I mean, I enjoyed this. This is great.
Yeah. I'm going to have you come back in a couple of weeks, and we'll go at this again so that we get a more chance to focus on your book, because I really like what you're talking about in terms of the energy that it takes. That's more of a philosophical type of approach, and I think something that is certainly worthy of further consideration, because I do think that could have a very dynamic effect on us as people.
I'm totally in accord.
Yeah. Would you like to say anything to my guests as we're getting close to the end of the hour?
Yes, I mean, I want to say I'm happy to know that the audience here is conservative because, I mean, I have a lot of views on conservatism, and it's not bad in no way. I think that we need to go back to some conservative ways as far as morality is concerned. So, but there are other conservative measures that need to be controlled. So, I would love to participate in anything to interact with the audience that Rudy has. So.
Okay. Well, Phillip, I want to thank you, and you will get an invite. In a couple of weeks, we'll come back and do this again, so we can focus more on your book. Folks, I'd like to thank you for tuning into the African American scene. God bless and be safe, and hopefully I'll be rid of this cold by next Wednesday. Take care.
The African American Scene with Rudy Howard is brought to you by Howard Insurance of Port St. Lucie. Tune in every Wednesday evening in the 6 p.m. hour for the African American Scene. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.